the time. How am I
let you
supposed to
speak
say
for 10
anything?
minutes.
I let
You
you
had the
speak
most
for 10.
talking time.
No. Shut
Keep
up for a
screeching.
second.
Keep screeching. You have been talking this entire time. Ask anybody here.
Because you've been
Alex,
asking me questions.
Alex, I'm on
I've
your
been
side.
trying to
I can-
explain.
You
Alex,
haven't
Okay, you
engaged
know what?
with anything I said.
Alex, think about this for a second, right? You are not even in my
Engage
fucking
with a single
country,
thing
and you're
I said.
telling me that you are telling me, right, that there is like heavy amounts of racism in South Africa, and I'm telling you no as a white South African person in this country,
You can have
and you're
your
telling me
opinions
I'm
all
wrong.
you want. I
It
can
doesn't
point to
make any
studies.
fucking
Yeah.
sense.
You know what? Wait.
You have anecdotes
How
all
about
you want.
You know what? Maybe the
Can
reason.
I try and speak to Alex real quick, and then you
One
can
second.
come back.
One
Like, you're
second,
putting
I'll have to
anecdote
direct you
against
back
studies.
on.
You can do that all day. Good luck.
So Alex, I'm on your side, and I can like if you have a question for Simon, I can probably answer what she would have said. So if you want to ask a question,
I mean,
like,
what's the contention at this
Do you
point?
think she's too retarded to answer the question?
No, I'm just
See,
saying that
it's that
at
kind
this
of
point-
insults that like.
Damn.
What's
Friggin'
insulting?
stupid,
I
man.
was asking him if he thinks I'm asking him if he thinks
You're
something.
calling me
something.
retarded, right? You're calling me retarded, and you know nothing about me.
No, I asked
Or South
if he
Africa.
thinks
You've
you
never
are.
even
I
set
asked him
foot in
if
South Africa.
calm down,
can't you
don't
see
get
how that's
triggered.
the
I
same
asked
thing?
him if he thinks you are. I didn't call you that.
No, can't you see
Although
how
I might
that's a
believe
very
it.
similar thing, though?
So what I think is
How?
Simon doesn't understand how you cannot understand it. Simon thinks that what she has said is so obvious that she can't put herself in your shoes at this point.
Yeah, no,
I think
she's
I-
trying.
Alex,
So, yeah, so
okay,
I
Alex,
can
I have
try
a
to make
question.
I can try to make my point. So what's
Alex,
going
have
on?
you ever
I think
stepped
so
foot?
just let someone else talk. So what I think is going on is she denied that there is this like large scale ideology of racism against whites in South Africa.
No, I didn't say
I pointed-
ideology. I said the implementation. I've said this multiple times. The implementation of racist ideology in South Africa
So you
is
said
not
ideology.
being
So you said
applied.
ideology.
I
Let me just
I
make my
said
point. Stop
implementation.
interrupting. Let someone else talk without interruption.
Ideology, bro. Why don't you let her talk? If you don't understand the
Talk for
word,
10
man,
minutes.
She just
But
talks a
Alex,
shit ton.
you're
That's
saying
We talked for
Alex,
10, 15 minutes. Just let me
you are
make my
saying
point.
that I
Stop
believe something that I
screeching.
don't believe. I
So
don't
You
believe
said
that
you didn't say
there-
ideology, and then you use ideology in your explanation.
Simon,
Are you not
can
aware
I-
of the
said-
fucking cognitive
It's
dissonance?
different. It's like if I
Simon,
said horse versus horse harness, man. It's different. She said implementation of ideology, not ideology. She's not saying the ideology doesn't exist. She's saying the
I think the
implementation doesn't exist.
She
Okay,
interrupted me
because of
before I
the
could.
the adjective is
She
moved to
interrupted
the
me
end.
because she interrupted me before I could make my whole point. I just said the word ideology, and I got interrupted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
She's
I'm sorry.
interrupting you. The reason she's interrupting you is fair. It's because people, they generally won't allow you to finish a thought when they know that that thought is wrong, and that's the
She
foundation
has
of
been
some other
talking for
point. But she's
15
trying
minutes.
to
I
save
didn't
you time.
interrupt her.
But well, yeah,
You
but
did
you
interrupt
guys are gonna tear each other
multiple
apart.
times.
You're gonna tear each other apart. You have to allow some
I'm
interrupting.
trying to just make my point, but she keeps screeching.
But your
So-
point is not, it cannot be valid because it's built on a bad foundation. So just understand, she's talking about the implementation. Do you have a point that's
I
based
know.
on
If
the
she would let
denial?
me make my whole point, that misunderstanding wouldn't exist.
So it's based on
So I'm just
the
gonna try to make
denial
my
of
point.
implication.
I'm just gonna
Okay.
try. So she said implementation doesn't happen. Then I looked, did a quick thing, so nobody can argue with me on sources. Went to Wikipedia. They did a study and found evidence of systematic racism against whites in the media.
Can you post the
And
study,
in the
please?
help, yeah, I
Yes,
can.
Because I'm sitting here reading like a motherfucker.
Yeah. I know. Finally, someone actually cares about the source I talked about. It's Wikipedia. Let me go to chat. Can I just play? I want to make my point. Jesus Christ. I link the article and then the section of the article. So that I meant. And then you can click on it and read further. So she said this doesn't exist. I gave evidence that it exists. Then she goes into 10 to 15 minutes talking about economic inequality in South Africa. Okay, great, good to know. That wasn't the point of the original conversation, which is why I initially said, when are you gonna get to your claim that I put evidence against. And she kept
Yeah.
talking, let me explain economic inequality. Like,
Well,
okay,
well, maybe
but I think is going on, let me,
Go ahead. Go
what
ahead.
I think, I'm just gonna try.
Relax.
What I think is going on is, in her mind, this kind of racism is justified or explainable because of economic inequality. And that's why she doesn't understand. Why she keeps pointing to it and saying, why don't you
I
understand? Why don't
doubt
you
it.
understand? I do understand. But to me, it
Uh-huh.
isn't. That doesn't make it justifiable. And your initial claim that it isn't happening would still be disproven, because now you switched from it isn't happening to this is why it is happening and it is
But
justified.
the
I don't know if she would
implementation
argue it's
Alex,
justified, but
is
your initial
different.
claim was that it isn't happening.
Okay, well,
Alex, may I?
can we give her a minute to respond, and then we'll try to like keep it to like 3 minutes or something.
Okay. So the reason why I addressed that was because the example you gave me, right, was, first of all, the reason it was to do with the first example you gave was the white killing of the farmers. That is why I addressed that topic, because it's not a white targeting system. It is the generational wealth that happens to be white people that have the money. There can be, do you know how much crime happens? Black on black crime happens in South
And
Africa.
again, and we're going
Can I
again.
ask a question?
She
Can I
keeps
ask a
doing
I'll
it.
take
question?
that, Alex.
Hey, wait.
Hold on,
Okay,
hold on, hold on. Wait.
all right, go.
I'm trying to moderate a little bit
Stand your
here. So
ground.
can I just ask a
Yeah.
quick question? What didn't they give a motive and say that it was a racially motivated?
Of
Those were
course it was
racially
racially motivated. They just connect the same way when a national communist
No, no,
says,
no, no.
"Oh,
I'm
no,
asking if
no,
they
can I
stated
just
the motive.
I just want
Let
to."
Alex speak.
I'm not asking
So
for an opinion. I know
so
if they stated them.
so what what a lot of times tends to happen is people connect certain characteristics to a race and then say they're targeting the characteristics when in actuality they're targeting the race. So for example, you had national communists during the 20s who said like, we don't hate Jews. For us, it's a culture that Jewish people have that facilitate capitalism, and to overthrow the capitalist system, the culture of the Jews need to be destroyed. If you believe
Mm.
fundamentally in South Africa, and then Marx always has his essay on the Jewish question, which you can read some of that shit as well. And and Goebbels also has a pamphlet, but not to get off topic. If you're in South Africa, you can see very similarities with anti-colonialist or like anti-colonial talking points in that South Africa. When you talk about how you want to liberate yourself from colonialism, who is this symbol of colonialism in South Africa? Whites, the Afrikaans, the
Yeah.
Boers. So if you keep, and then this line of reasoning before of, oh, they're not targeted because they're white, they're targeted because they're wealthy. Number one, you already admitted that some of these farmers aren't wealthy, they're poor. That's one. And second, if people make that
No.
connection, similar when people make that connection to exploitation, banking to Jewish people, oh, we're only targeting bankers, we're only targeting like radical jewelry in our system. No, they are obviously specifically targeting the ethnic group. If you associate white people with
Why is
wealth,
it obviously the ethnic group?
Okay, I just want to ask
because
Alex, what is your
the president made statements about how they want to give back the land to black citizens from the whites.
Okay,
And
Alex,
I
I
can
mean,
there are
Yeah,
quotes I
they
can give you.
wanted to
They
do
want
it.
to I can give you quotes from some of these movements saying we want to cut the throat of
Oh,
whiteness in South
okay, let's
Africa.
come back to the quotes
Wait.
because
Alex,
again,
get
I'm going
Alex.
to
Guys,
time limit each person a little bit.
I've read
Okay,
through the
keep.
sourcing here. Can I have like a minute?
Yes,
mhm.
please. Go.
All right, thank you. First of all, I know fuck all about South Africa. One of my favorite authors are from. I know very little. I do know that a lot of this is politicized worldwide about white genocide in Africa, right?
It's both
Secondly,
sides politicized, the left and the right using
yeah,
it.
I'm just saying it's very politicized, right? Now, one of the things that I smirk at is that one of the studies is literally, where is it? Here we go. The foundation also said an analysis of Facebook and Twitter messages show that the most virulent and dangerous racism expressed in the most extreme and violent language has come from disaffected Black South Africans. I'm sorry, dude. We can't go off social media.
So you're trying to discredit the study with a different source which is mentioned afterwards.
This specific thing mostly.
Okay,
but
that wasn't the thing
what's
that wasn't the thing I was quoting. I was specifically talking about the
That
study.
seems to support your study.
that's the last part of the racism against white Africans on the Wikipedia thing. The last thing, just mention it real quick because you guys were barely touching on it. The ANC, the African whatever thing, the political body in South Africa, they looked at what I think it was Zimbabwe had done, which was taking a lot of the land and giving it out, good old communistic style, and were considering doing something similar.
By the
They
way,
did
Tom,
do something similar to that, and then the people they gave the land to didn't know how to manage the
All right,
land,
let's have a quick read on that.
economic
They're
disaster.
also now trying
By
to
the
give the
way,
land back as well because it's disused.
by the way, why
if
can't
you
we go over
connect
social
like
media?
land redistribution to, for example, a lot of people don't understand. When it comes, and I'm German, so I'm going to take that as a reference. A lot of the ideology of the, especially the left-wing faction of the National Socialists, sounds very like we need to liberate. Some of them literally called for a worker state during Nazi times. They all got killed by Hitler afterwards, but they were calling for a worker state.
Mhm.
But when they talk about these ideas of like redistributing land, they want to redistribute land to this like almost socialistic entity, but they don't consider that all people, they consider that their specific ethnic group. And you have something similar in a lot of these anti-colonialist movements. They will practice stuff like, oh, kill the kulaks, let's redistribute the land. But when they talk about redistributing it, giving to the people, they're not talking about all people. They're talking about their ethnic group, their tribe, and that is in the South Africa devolved into massive corruption and tribalism, and a lot of other former colonies as well. Because a lot of this ideology fundamentally wasn't communism; it was national communism, or sometimes even closer to something like national socialism, especially with the anti-Semitism in South Africa, where they like one of the president being incredibly anti-Semitic and denying the Holocaust and shit like that. But yeah.
All right, so
But I think
Alex,
I think I see the big problem here. Previously, they would buy property from willing sellers. They aren't doing that anymore. This
may
changed.
I
This was a
speak?
change in 2020.
So that's Keaton. Are you the one that was on the other side of this?
I'm
Being
right
started
with
right now.
Alex, by the way.
Alex, can I ask you a question? Have
Just
you
trying to
ever
figure out
left Germany
Yeah, of
and
course.
lived somewhere
when
abroad for a
something.
while?
Yeah, of course. I was in
Just
Where
trying to
did
get
you
a.
Africa.
go?
I was in England. I was in France, in Italy,
You sure was
Where
in
where in
Austria,
Africa did you go?
Tunis.
right
Where?
there.
Again, Tunis. Do you want to assassinate my character? Keep going. Keep trying.
I'm
Yeah, keep
no,
trying.
you're not. I'm.
He's
You
No,
have
you
just
literally
very
are.
wondering
No, what the fuck? You're asking for personal
where you've
information to
been.
discredit my
He
answers
Al.
was,
because you
bro.
have nothing
He
to go
was.
against.
No, I'm
No.
asking you about your experience in the world to see if you understand like variations in other
Yeah,
countries. I'm
you're
not
trying
trying to
to
assess your
trying to
character. I'm
discredit my
trying to assess
opinion
your.
based on my experience in the world. Yes,
No,
exactly.
I am not
Alex,
fighting you.
Of course you are. What?
I am not fighting you. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
explain to you, and you have a very antagonistic way of communication.
Because
Do
you
you
screamed
understand
at me
that?
before,
You
yeah.
have to give up your personal
Because you were.
information here. Let's not
Listen,
just assume that she's trying to do
excuse
something
me.
nasty.
Just hold on for a second.
She said
I'm sorry.
before, oh, you're not in South Africa, you can't know. And now she's asking, have you ever traveled?
We're not
That's
going to have a
I
nice
obviously
did.
insinnuating.
conversation.
That's obviously
Okay,
insinuating.
I
no,
think,
She
Alex.
hoped that I would say
but
no
you're
and then
being
discredit my
paranoid,
opinion,
man.
obviously.
You're
Alex, can I
being
go to a different
paranoid.
VC with you?
You don't know if
Oh
that's
no,
true or
I have
not.
no issue here.
Okay, but then
Alex,
I need
stand your
to.
ground.
I'm being overspoken a
Yeah, go
lot,
ahead.
and a lot of people are interrupting. Let me just finish real quick, okay? I am not attacking you. I am trying very much to understand you, right? To understand you, the way that you picture South Africa, the way that you understand it from the media that you have consumed about South Africa compared to my understanding living in the country, right? To know
Mhm.
what differences are between what your understanding is and what my understanding is. I'm not trying to attack you. I am irritated by you because you do this thing where you speak very fast and it overwhelms me. And when I'm overwhelmed like that, I need to raise my voice so that I can stop you. And I don't like to do that. I would really prefer it if I didn't have to
And why
raise my
did you
voice.
ask if I ever left Germany?
Because I had never left South Africa until I like to live in a different country before 2 years ago when I went to the States.
Okay.
That's
It
where
doesn't answer the
that's where I
question why you
learned
asked me that.
because that's where I learned. Right. This is why I'm saying you have an antagonistic way of speaking. The reason why I said that was because when I went to the States, I learned about the differences in culture, right? And understanding what words mean in those cultures, right? So your definition of racism, right, is different from the definition of racism when you are in South Africa. Does that make sense to you?
What does that to do with why you asked me the question.
Can I ask a
That's a
question?
good point.
Listen,
To know if you had
Alex,
the same
wouldn't it
information as
add to your
me.
credit if you
Yeah,
said I'd
then you
been
can just
to
ask.
6 or 7 other countries and I lived there for 4 or 5 months, and I learned about all these different things, and then she could ask you, about how that like sensitized you and go down that path. It
That
doesn't
wasn't the intent.
necessarily have to be
If you give me
discredited.
your opinion about America and I then ask you, oh, you fucking Angloid, have you ever left America? What do you even know? That's the attitude. I can, of course, formulate it more politely and say,
You're
have you
here.
ever left America? But of course, I'm trying to discredit what you're saying. Stop
I
pretending that
What?
wasn't the attempt.
I'm sorry. No, no, no.
Are
What are
you
you saying?
implying
Are you
that?
saying that the tone which I used to ask you that question was
No,
not
no,
correct?
no,
Is that
nothing to do with the tone. It has to do with the content. If you multiple times try to say, "Oh, you don't live in South Africa," whenever I presented some evidence that you didn't have a contrary to, every single time you say, "You don't live. It's my personal experience. It's my personal experience." You have
no,
no idea.
no. That
And
is
then you
not
ask
what
me,
I
"Have you ever
said.
left Germany?" After I make
I'm
another
trying to
point.
be fair to you, but even if that were the
You
case,
need
Alex, you're being very
Oh my
defensive,
God.
and it makes you look weak.
It's no, 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 no. It's
I
not
don't think
about
it
him.
does.
Just hold on. Fuck's sake. The reason why I find it very important is because I had a lot of ideas about America until I went there and then I understood. When I was there and I lived there for 2 years, I started to understand why the rest of the world has this image of America. Does that make sense?
Okay. So
The
your point.
miscommunications between the two
So
countries.
is your point? So you're trying to say that because I wasn't in South Africa, I probably misunderstand the situation. Is that your point?
No, I think yes, partially is what I'm
Okay,
trying
so
to
you're trying to
convey to you.
discredit my
Alex,
opinion
wait a
based
minute.
on.
Alex, wait a second.
No,
Let
I'm
me
not
finish.
trying to
Let me finish.
discredit it. I'm trying to convey to you that there are things that you don't understand because you have not been in the
That
country
is
to
literally you
understand the way that
discrediting.
I'm not trying to
Oh,
discredit you. I'm saying it's partially responsible for the reason why you have a perception that is not correct.
That is what?
so
One
Are
moment.
you
One moment.
hold on,
are you
hold on.
Partially
okay in the head?
responsible.
Well, look at
Alex,
the
Okay.
situation
No,
you're in
let
now.
me try here. Alex, the good faith interpretation would be that she's trying to assess where your level of understanding is by asking you questions about your background.
You
That's
literally
that would
said because you haven't been here. I am. She said
Okay.
that one of the reasons you are wrong is because you haven't been here. She
I
said I
said
try to
What
understand
if
why
part.
your
you're wrong about
definition of
this.
the
That
word
is what she said.
discredit is not as
Okay,
extreme as your definition?
you are
yeah, sure.
so fucking
Like,
aggravated. Just calm down for a second. It's not about you. It is
Alex,
not
step it
about
up.
You
you.
asked me where I traveled. You asked me if I ever left
Yes,
Germany. Of course, it's about me.
I asked you to understand if you knew that there is a difference between one country and another when you travel and you live there and you learn that your
That's not what you
perception from
asked
one
me.
country to another. Can I fucking Everybody in this room, do you understand that when you move to a different country, right? Perceptions that you might have had about that country prior to moving there changes once you are in that country.
Yeah, of
Does
course.
anyone in this
100%.
Everybody agrees
100%.
here.
Go ahead.
But your
Okay.
initial thing is by you were so if I don't. This is so obvious. I don't understand how how people don't understand this. Of course, if you move to a different country, so if someone has an opinion that I disagree with, and I know or I hold the belief that not being in different countries it gives you a lack of perspective or too small of a horizon, then one way to discredit them, if I hold these beliefs, is to say you haven't traveled. Because if I hold the belief that traveling expands your horizon, and I disagree with someone's opinion but have no actual like evidence to properly disagree, I can just point to the fact that they haven't traveled, that their horizon isn't broad enough.
No,
And you have admitted it. You have to admit it as much
I
by
was
saying,
Her
not
goal is not
trying.
to discredit you. She's just trying to build the conversation.
I'm trying to
I
build
don't know if you've been here when it was
explanation.
originally brought up.
so I
If
think
it
Okay.
if it discredits you, that's just a byproduct.
But you would then
That's
admit
not
that it was,
fair.
yeah.
yeah, okay,
Okay.
Alex,
Alex,
I
why
understand
do
why
you
you
think
have
it's
an interpretation, but I think for the sake of like furthering the debate along, we should just assume good faith interpretations, right?
We can lie to ourselves, yes. But okay, we
okay,
can move it
Alex?
on, yeah.
Let me tell you right now, I'm not here to insult you for
I did
100%.
never accuse
I
you of
do
that. I
not
never
Don't
accused you
take
of
that
insulting me.
disrespect, Alex.
I
I
don't
never
enjoy
accused you
being
of insulting me.
agitated or getting riled up or insulting other people, right? I don't like the fact that you implied that I was retarded. That was not fun.
When did I
right?
imply that?
You do.
You said,
When did I
are
imply
you
that?
retarded? You asked me if I was retarded.
I
No,
don't
I
remember
didn't.
him
I
saying
asked
that.
someone else. I asked someone wanted to speak for you, so I asked that person if they think that you're retarded because they think they need to speak for you.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know. Now I might think
You're
you are because your memory
you're
seems to
not
have holes that
moderating chat
benefit your
rooms,
argument.
Easy
buddy.
Do you
now, Alex.
understand?
Don't fucking undermine your point the moment you
Do you
make it, dude.
understand
Come
that that is
on.
bad faith? Like, you understand that is
You literally
you are
misrepresented what you said.
insinuating.
It's a
You accused me of calling you
miscommunication.
retarded when I never did,
Yes,
or when I
sir.
didn't in that instance.
And then you corrected it. So conversation over. Let's not like get into backbiting too much here because the conversation's not moving.
It
You know,
isn't. It's
you're
stuck
occupying
over
so much of the
these
chat
fucking
on
like
backbiting.
minute little things. Yeah, no.
Alex versus the
Fine.
Discord.
By the way,
He's
Alex,
standing his ground.
I know it was a
I'm
long
only
time ago.
holding to correct the record. Of course, you can criticize me if someone accuses you of something that isn't true. Of course, you can just shut the fuck up and
Okay,
let the conversation move along. Yeah, of course, you can be an
Alex.
idiot and do that, but no, of course, I'm going to call it out.
Sigma.
Alex,
So can
I
we
have.
stop the meta chat
So
and move
I
back
believe
to
that
a
like if you told me,
substantive conversation?
I've been
sorry,
trying that before, but I keep getting asked more and more questions. And after I made
This
my
is the
positions,
meta,
I provided evidence
right?
Just
for my
fucking do it.
positions.
Hey, Alex, just fucking move on. Just go, dude. Come on. We got
This
this.
Yeah,
meta
I'm
right
going back to the
now.
topic at the
Hey,
moment.
No,
Yeah.
yo, watch
no,
out,
you're not.
man.
No, you're not. You're having a meta
That's my
conversation. We
homie
don't need to
Alex.
know what you did. We don't need to know who you are. We don't need to know what you've done in the conversation. Let's just have the conversation without talking about how to have the conversation or what's
Then
been
just let
done.
me talk. So
Okay, well, I'm just
yeah.
saying, talk about the
So
conversation.
the initial claim that in practice there is no such thing as or there is no racism in that sense against the whites in South Africa. Obviously untrue, even without specifically looking for it. Being a minority that, from a political perspective, has to be discriminated against in the sense of liberation if you believe in like anti-colonial ideology. So just by the virtue of that, there must be something. But that was already disagreed with, and then I looked up and I found on Wikipedia a study pointing out the systematic racism against whites in the media in South Africa. Then the person admitted that Africa is controlled by 1%, by a quite corrupt small amount of black South Africans who control the companies, the government, etc., etc. Now, after I provided the evidence for my claims, she kept talking about economic inequality in South Africa, and that is wonderful, very interesting. But that has nothing to do with my initial counter to her claim. And then she
You
kept
know
going
how
and going
difficult
and
it
going.
is
Okay,
to have this.
okay.
Okay, we're back on Meta again. We don't need to
May
know
I
what she
speak now,
did.
please?
She can just
May I
keep
speak?
going. She can,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So, first of all, Alex, you are misrepresenting what I said. You are misrepresenting it in a way that is so fucking like hard to like even begin to speak about. But what you are saying, right, has different levels of wrong in it. Okay? What I said,
What he said.
excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's just the same thing. Like, all
I
right,
was about to
go
mention
ahead.
nobody criticizes her for that, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Alex, you are saying things that I don't believe in, right? Because you are
Just
saying
say
them
the things that you think are wrong. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he don't give a fuck.
I think murder and death and crime is wrong, right? But I also understand why they happen.
So yeah, you're trying to give justification to the actions, but your initial
Okay.
claim
No,
was to deny that the
you are
actions
not.
are happening.
Wait.
Yes, the
Can you
actions
render
happen, right?
So you
why do you
concede your
think they
initial
happen?
position.
Fuck's sake, can I finish my fucking sentence, bro? Listen to me for a second. You are saying that there is like people are killing white people because they're white, right? I'm telling you why white people are being targeted.
Wait. When did I specifically make that claim? You asked for evidence for any racism against whites in South Africa. One example was farm killings. The other one was a study pointing systematic racism in the media. And then there was a
Systematic
smaller piece
racism in
of,
the media.
and then there was a smaller piece of evidence of like attitudes towards whites by black South Africans. And then the article goes further when it comes to hate speech, where it goes on to, if I remember correct, there was one saying we need to cut the throat of whites in South Africa, etc., etc. But
Can we deal with
yeah, it was
one
one
article of
example of.
evidence at a time? This is no way to have.
I already linked it. You
I
just need to
addressed the
open the
first.
chat. Just open the
So-
chat and click on
sources?
it, please.
No, I know you did, but you're going through like 6 things, so it's like a closing argument. Let's try to get into one piece of evidence and just take it one piece at a time. Try to pause between your thoughts. Leave a
Right.
couple of seconds so people can jump in.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm trying to convey here, right, is he keeps saying that I'm trying to justify racism. It's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to explain that it's not racist to begin with. It looks racist for this reason. And then that is where I implied the historical background, which is very much responsible for why these two things look very similar but aren't the same thing.
I want to write this down.
And then I applied another thing that he said. He talked about the cutting the farmer's throat, right? Which is part of the racist ideology.
Wait, when did I say cutting the farmer's throat?
You were talking about there was
Ooh.
what
Do
was
you have
the last
memory
thing you said?
problems? I said cutting the throat of whiteness.
Okay.
You did say
Alex,
This is why we can
Jesus.
take things one at a time.
That's the second time you misrepresented blatantly what I said.
Oh my god.
How is she supposed
Okay,
to? How is she supposed to keep up with when you say like 12 things at a time?
Okay. Can we
I
make a
keep
rule?
They can't keep up, Alex.
Can we make a rule?
I made very. I say
let's
my
make a rule.
argument. I summarize the position. Then I keep repeating. That's all I'm doing.
Damn it.
Yeah, so you just said cutting the throat of whiteness. Can we just like come to that mutual understanding now and then like engage with that? Irrespective, do you think that like cutting the throat of whiteness is like a statement about whether or not people will engage in violence against the community?
You sound like a robot. I can't hear anything you're saying.
Yeah, your mic is going out,
Bro,
man.
focus on driving.
Sorry.
And just for reference, that was one example of rhetoric I heard from the region, from one of the group leaders. But the original reason why I brought it up was because we're talking about attitudes and ideology that leads to action, etc., etc. And the actual thing where I have like proper citation for is I put in the chat there with the Wikipedia article, and there's the whole list. I think it's 8 paragraphs about specifically about hate speech. There's one study according to systematic racism against whites, and yeah. So if anyone wants to actually engage with the evidence, maybe critique the methodology, maybe critique where
There's
it
a
comes
lot in
from.
the chat, everybody.
I'm completely.
He
Yeah,
said, take
I've
it
been
up.
begging for someone to actually engage with the evidence instead of making
I
random
don't actually see.
slants
Oh,
to
here it is.
different.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I
Okay,
could
but
be
can we
wrong,
get back
obviously.
to Simon?
But
Can we get back to Simon? Because I would like to know about the causes that she's trying to identify. Because I don't think we can make you can't make anything other than a straw man if you don't really know what she's arguing for, right?
her initial claim that it wasn't happening. Her claim is that it isn't happening because they're white. It's because
I
they're
think
wealthy.
I
But the
think
study I
that's a
pointed
straw
to
man.
the study I pointed to specifically shows that it's white and not
I mean,
has nothing to do
she's
with wealth. It's
told
white.
you multiple times that you're misrepresenting her. So
That
there
was
must
her.
be something
Those were her
wrong with the way
exact
you're
words.
saying it.
Those were her.
Well,
I
it may
only
be.
specifically talked about
Words
what.
have
I'll just
different
continue.
meanings.
I will just continue to let
Words
Alex
have different
explain
meanings.
everything about me because that seems to be
Right.
working out perfectly. I'll just
Did you?
have
Did
him.
you?
He's my
Did
some of
you?
those
spokesperson
words?
now.
Did you
You just
I
conceded,
correct you
bro.
already said I already
Can you
corrected
some
you
of them?
twice when it comes to your memory. Okay, so I seem to be
Yes.
at least
Yeah.
not more knowledgeable of the conversation.
Alex knows
So
more about me than I do. Go for it. Go, Alex. It's your turn.
Yeah, Alex,
keep trying to
this
play
is
rhetorical shit.
Yeah.
I would ask this ALEC person, what is your operating definition of racism then? Because your definition
Operating
and
definition
everyone
of
else.
racism.
Yes, correct.
Discrimination purely based on race.
So no
Meaning,
structural.
meaning if discrimination is based on a characteristic that might be more prevalent, if as long as it's specifically attached to the race and you don't target the characteristic but specifically the race because it's associated with the characteristic, that would be racism.
So it's just
An okay talking point.
I have a follow up question. So racism is just me being mean. Racism is just me being mean because somebody else is a different race. That's what racism is.
No. I can repeat myself.
That was your
Discrimination.
definition. You just said that was basically your
No,
definition.
I can repeat myself. If you target a
He
specific
has been.
racial group,
But if
if you
we
target
just
a
said
specific
those are
racial
your
group,
exact words and then didn't let you really have
finish.
your chance to speak, then you're just going to kind of be stuck in a shitty mood. You know what I'm saying?
In a shitty
Like if
mood.
you're going to clarify or restate yourself or whatever, we can't sit here and just say that's what you said, that's what you said, that's what you said. You know, I mean,
I'm just
I'm trying to help you out here,
Yeah,
Alex, man. I'm not trying to be a
yeah,
dipshit, man. I'm sorry if this is coming
Wait,
off.
wait.
no issue.
Discrimination
If
means
it's a little
like
too focused on
So,
like,
treating something differently, right?
Cool.
so again, I can try to restate. So, or just repeat what I said. Racism, discrimination based on race, and then I made a specific subcategory there. If there might be traits associated with some groups of people, as long as you target a specific trait and not the race, that wouldn't be racism. But if you
Mhm.
target the race, the whole race based on a trait, then that's still racism. That's the only thing
so
that I made.
what
But to the initial
so what
question, if you're mean to someone because they are black,
yeah,
purely because of the fact that they are black, that's racist.
Okay,
okay.
you know what? I actually agree with you, Alex, but because you haven't let me tag in from your side, I'm gonna try to make the opposing arguments. So here's my issue, right? With the studies you've shown, is there any evidence that the targeting of white people is disproportionate as a percentage of the population, right? Even when you account for wealth, right?
So one that was never discussed. We can open this conversation. If it's disproportionate, I would have to look into it. But the initial claim was that it wasn't happening.
Yeah, sure, but it's not
No.
racism if
No,
it's
So
but
if
I'm
no, no,
wait.
hold on,
But she then
let me
said that it was
if
more about the
if you have a black
economics,
person
like
and a white person,
more
and the
the
white person
economic
has
perspective.
wealthy,
I
and the white person
said,
has nothing, obviously you're gonna
may I?
choose to target the white person because they're wealthy and you can
let
actually steal
let's
from them. It's
okay,
not
hold
racist.
on. We let
let's
you reiterate. Let's let her reiterate because we
yeah,
still don't really understand what she
I
let her
said.
speak.
actually would like to hear what Choka said. So Choka, finish what you said, and then I'll
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
say after. Go
I
for it.
didn't know that was true.
So I'm saying that if you have a white person with a lot of wealth and you have a black person with no wealth, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
choose the white person, it's not because they're white; it's because they have wealth. So it's not racist, right?
Yeah, if you listen to the definition I gave of racism, I specifically, in anticipation, gave a
Oh, let him finish.
subcategory.
Let,
If you
let him
target
finish. What
someone,
he was...
no, I was done. Go
Okay.
on.
if
Alex.
you
Okay. Good.
target
So,
someone for a characteristic that might be associated with a group, but you purely go for the characteristic, for example, wealthy, that's fine. But if a characteristic that's associated with a group, you target the entire group because of that associated characteristic, that's racism.
Okay.
No,
But
The
how
issue
do
I have.
wait. Let me respond. So if you show that like some black people who are wealthy are also targeted, then you would agree that it's not racist, right?
No, of course it can still be racist. Like again, it's way more complicated than like one group purely shitting on another group. Life is way more complicated. You can have specifically people targeting white people, and you can have a different group targeting people for being wealthy. Those both group can act together.
Okay,
Those
but
both
okay,
both those groups can act together. And again, if you look at the specific study, it talks about how portrayal in the media and how this might fan on or increase violence asymmetrically between the two groups. So, and that's what the study also points to, that attitudes, or there's a second section, but the second is less credible, but I can just mention it because it's in the same article, where it talks about how attitudes of blacks towards whites are apparently more
It's
violent or more
interesting.
directly violent. But
It's interesting that you referenced South Africa specifically because there was also another big thing happening in South Africa that might sort of lend, opposition to your sort of social theory about how whites are treated there.
what do you mean social theory? Do you even know what the conversation initially was
Yeah,
about?
yeah, yeah. And I
It was
think I'm
specifically about
getting.
South Africa. It was specifically about South Africa. It wasn't about black and white people. It was about South
No, no, no.
Africa and
Yeah, yeah.
inside the
That's what I was
fields of
saying. Like,
Africa. Yeah.
I was just noting. I was commenting that it's specific. Like, it's very interesting that you utilize like South Africa in this study that you referenced. I just find that very fascinating.
No, it is a study
Just talking
literally in
about
the
Africa.
Wikipedia article about racism in South Africa. It is in the section racism against whites. That's the only thing I'm
That's very
saying.
interesting.
So here's the issue, right?
What?
When we
Dude,
say that
he
it's
referenced a study about South Africa because we're talking about South Africa. I don't know what's going on here. Like, are people actually like
Someone
reactionarily
is
like
left-wing brain
freaking
rot.
out?
They heard certain
Like,
words, their brain shuts down.
Left wing
No,
brain rot now.
not even
Oh
left-wing, not even
wow.
left-wing brain rot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
Not
left-wing
even left-wing
myself,
brain
and I
rot.
can still say that.
Just calm the
Left
fuck
wing
down for a
brain
second.
rot.
Okay?
That's fascinating.
Lower your eyebrows. Everybody lower your fucking eyebrows, okay? There is anti-white sentiment in a lot of African nations.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know why people are freaking out about this. The question is whether or not it's like significant.
I
No,
even
the question
It's
is,
bad.
question is
It's
whether or not
made
it's racist.
specifically.
Again, relax. I'm not done. Okay. The question is whether or not it's significant and whether or not we should like care to the degree that a lot of people think that we should care to the degree that we should like freak out about it. Okay.
Isn't the conversation about caring or freaking
bad,
out? It was a specific claim that was made.
Again, relax. I'm actually defending your point here, so you can relax.
Oh man, you shouldn't.
My family's
Go
from Africa.
Bro.
My family is from Africa. There is a lot of anti-white sentiment in Africa, and there's a lot of anti-white sentiment in South Africa.
I wonder
There's
why.
there's a reason why it's difficult for an African minister, specifically a South African prime minister, to be white, relative to being like born on the continent, or even not even born on the continent, but born on the continent and African.
Why
and
might
black.
Africans be suspicious of white colonizers? Why might that be? Why would they feel
Wait,
that way?
Are you seriously doing this? You can wait, no, wait. I just wanna engage there.
Alex, answer
Can I
down,
just no?
Alex.
Let me just.
legitimately. Answer legitimately.
So I'm
Stand
just
your
trying
ground,
to.
Alex.
Okay, so
Again, if Elon Musk's dad can own a fucking emerald mine and do all the bullshit, but Elon Musk isn't a fucking colonizer piece of shit white person, we can like disentangle these two things. It's still fucking racist for you to treat him poorly.
yeah, I was about
Is it?
I was
It's
about to go
racist
into
for me
this. I
to
was
treat
about to
Elon
go
Musk.
into this.
to it, bro.
You cannot apply this double standard. If you
So,
have
okay,
this
I have
thinking,
a question.
oh why no stop. I just wanna this is such
You're
an
not doing
I
a
just wanna
service
make
to
this one
Africans.
point.
You're not.
Okay,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just-
No. Go ahead.
I just wanna make my
Alex is
point.
trying
Make
to
your point.
speak.
No. This person's
So,
trying to defend like, Africans and like African identity and African culture and African society. Bro, you're not doing us any favors. I'm sorry.
I-
Like you're actually making us look
You
worse.
don't even know.
Please
Wait,
stop fucking talking.
I just wanna make. You don't even know what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna join with you. I'm
Not
gonna
talking
be
about
on your side.
I'm not talking to you, Alex.
Okay. So
Oh wait. What did I do? I didn't even make an argument yet.
oh Jesus Christ. So I just want to say this is an incredibly hypocritical stance. If you believe this like literal like you're doing like 1350 attitudes towards white people in South Africa by saying, oh, why could that be? Why could that be? If you have if a certain trait or history is associated with an ethnic group, we don't discriminate them based on that. Otherwise, you would have to also in America say, oh, black people are heavily overrepresented in crime statistics. That's whoa, why could that be? And you could do the exact same nonsense. But we don't do that because we're civilized people. Okay, we don't associate these characteristics with race and then shit on the entire ethnic group because that's
No,
retarded.
I
Okay,
hear
we
you.
don't do that.
I hear you.
And
Yeah,
you
I
don't
hear
do that in South Africa against whites, and you don't do it against blacks in America. And this, like, whoever that retard was who said, "Oh, why could that be? Why could that be?" Like, you're on the same
Okay,
level
let's
as like
not
some
use
fucking kid in
Alex is
America who
retarded.
talks.
let's
You
not
don't
use
have to add
ignorant.
on, homie. You don't have
Alex,
to
this is what I
add
said.
on.
You have a very antagonistic way of speaking to
I do.
people. It makes them not. Yes, it makes them not want to listen to you.
I'm listening.
I thought retard was the only
Enough
word that
people
was
were
okay
listening.
on this version.
Like the chat
Alex, I
started
got my
with like
ears
4
tapped
Go
people.
easy on the
Like,
ableist.
I don't know how many, but
No,
Listen,
it
I-
makes them.
I don't.
When I say
It's
when I
very.
say they don't want to listen to you, I mean they don't want to agree with you. Makes you
I agree with
unagreeable.
everything, bro.
So
We
they
standing
don't.
this
They
down
won't
against all.
be willing to accept any of your ideas when you communicate in that way. Does that?
I
a person who unironically
Bro, he
said
spoke right
No
through it.
who had that
how
sort of
Otherwise,
opinion about whites in South Africa, I don't.
no
I'm
matter
not
how
gonna
antagonistic a
fight against
person
that
is,
person.
I will always say racism is bad. Like, what's going on here? Like, just
Yep.
say,
Well, I
okay,
think
it's
what
bad.
that's
They shouldn't do it. It's inappropriate. We don't condone
oh
racism in
God,
society. We should minimize racism to the greatest degree.
I
And
agree.
if it exists,
yeah.
it exists, and we should stamp it out. That's it. That's the conversation.
I
But
don't
it's not-
believe
it's
whoever
like-
said I
don't
agree.
go into this-
I don't think
when
you
you're
agree because when I
antagonizing
pointed
people-
that out
don't go
about
into
the
this
people in
like,
South
oh,
Africa.
they have a colonial history here.
Yes,
Don't
please
go
just
into,
speak
oh, they have
over
a
each other.
colonial
That's a
history
great
here.
idea.
All the white people were colonizers. A lot of white people were colonizers. This is true, and they did fucked up things to the continent. But their ancestors
Really?
shouldn't be treated accordingly. This is fucked.
The
Show me
country,
one piece of evidence.
imperialism is way more
Give me
complicated
one
than
piece
than
of
you
evidence
sometimes
that there's
portray it, but
anti-white
it's
sentiment in
Show
South
me
Africa.
one piece of
yeah. Well, can you
evidence
just
that
okay?
white
This is
people
completely
are.
the going off a hell. Stop, please stop. This is not a contest to like show how virtuous
Yes,
people
sir.
are. Let's just cut this out. I think everybody here agrees. Maybe the dipshit who said like, oh, why is it white people? Maybe that person left, or they
I know I'm
just too
still here.
scared to talk right now. But
They did
I'm still here.
leave.
oh,
I'm
you're
still
still
Yeah.
here.
there.
So
Okay.
why does
Oh,
why does
word.
the EPP not have a leader in South
What is
Africa?
the
Okay,
what?
the conversation is
What is
dead.
the
People want to talk too many points. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what is
why
the
Interesting.
why does one of the political parties
Oh god.
like the
Yeah.
Look,
DA?
bro, all I
Why does the
know is
DA
that Alex
Oh
have
god.
lied this entire
a
debate.
I
The
can hear
entire time.
I can't hear.
Hey, Anti, your mic's
Just
fucked
answer
up,
the
homie.
question.
Bro, I can't hear a thing you're saying, man.
Anti, your
Bro,
mic's
what
fucked.
is the
Yeah.
do you know
Alex,
what the DA is?
Robot mode.
Do you know what the
I
DA
can't.
is?
Alex, bro.
I couldn't hear a single word. Sorry.
Yeah, Alex is up in gaming chat. He's in debate 3.
Wait, Alex left?
Oh
Yeah,
damn.
there's too
Damn,
many
bro.
fucking people here. He's trying to minimize.
Look, man, I'm gonna say this much on Alex's behalf since he left, bro. He's the realest motherfucker in this room. He really stood his ground against all you people. That shit.
Against all of us trying to oppress him.
Oh, don't throw all of us against him, because not all of us were against him.
Okay. Well,
Well,
the people who were fucking with Alex, you guys were some real motherfuckers. And I wish nothing but the best for you. Everyone else
People are
just
being
suck a dick.
insanely cringe right now. Like, there's a reason why certain South African political parties have not had a leader be prime minister, even if there is like, even if there is the sentiment that Nelson Mandela's party should be in charge. Like, the DA was founded by white anti-apartheid liberals, and the reason why a lot of their folks don't get in positions of privilege and power in South Africa is because they were white. This is true. And you might think that it's like understandable that these people have skepticism towards white people in being in positions of privilege and authority in the country because
right.
of historical precedent, but that's because of racism, dog.
That's
Like,
not
it
racism.
actually is.
No.
It
No.
is
No.
racism, by the way.
Let me
because
describe
those
to you why it's
people-
not. Let me describe
Those
to you why it's
people,
not.
right? Those people
Hold up, Auntie.
are not racist. They are clearly they were clearly anti-apartheid when they founded the party. They worked alongside people who were fighting
Sure.
against apartheid. They helped to enact anti-apartheid legislation. Like, these people aren't like the bad white people, quote unquote. They haven't done anything.
Sure, yeah, you're absolutely right. That sucks that they didn't, get ample opportunity to help. I'm not saying all white people are evil. I'm saying that, there can be bigotry, certainly, but racism is different than bigotry. Like, you can be bigoted against white people, absolutely, and
Okay,
that sucks,
so
and it's
your
bad. Hold
operational
on, I'm
definition of
almost.
racism is
Let me
power plus
let me just finish
privilege.
real quick. Hold on, let me
Wait,
just finish.
Anti, let him talk, homie.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna wrap it up. I promise. I'm not gonna talk forever, but I was just gonna say those are two entirely different things, because one comes with what laws were put into place in South Africa that says white people cannot go here, white people cannot do this, white people cannot exist in a public space without security, or they have to have a certain passport to go to different parts of town. Like, it comes with institutional power. So
Okay,
it's not just people mean racism. Bigotry is
Yeah,
definitely
so
a thing.
if I railed against like Jewish people in the United States as an African American because I have no
That's
institutional power
anti-Semitism. That's
on a
anti-Semitism.
systemic level, that's
Call
anti-Semitism.
words,
That's not racist.
well, it could be racist too, but call words by their proper name. Like, you can't just say oh, well, this is bad to me,
But
so it's
what is the
racism.
proper name? Who operationalized this term as the
Bigotry.
proper term?
It's bigotry. That's what it is. Like, if you hate people just because of the
Racism,
way they look, that's
is
bigotry.
that you have a superiority over them based off your racial characteristics, because a lot of them do.
But there's no institutional power behind it, is the point.
Yeah, I reject your categorization of the term. Like, that's insane.
Okay, let's
I understand that
to
this
the
is
United
an academic
Let's go to
definition that's
the
built in,
let's go to the
I
United
understand
States,
this
right?
is an academic definition that some people use. I think it's an insane academic definition.
Why is it
Nobody
insane? It's
uses
historical precedent.
It's
What are
insane.
you talking
It's insane because, like, saying that you can say there's systemic racism, that the institutions are working
racism
against
is
these people
systemic.
on the basis of, no, it isn't all systemic. You can have an
It is.
individual who's racist. I don't know what you're talking about. You have
It's
you
supported
can
by
have
systems of
ideologies
power.
that are racist.
It's supported by systems of power. That's where it comes from. It comes from institutional systems of power that reinforce racism. That's where the racism comes from.
Okay. Yeah, we just can't talk to each other. We're using different words for different things.
No, it's the same word. You're just using it incorrectly. It's like it doesn't broadly.
This is what I'm talking about. We can't have a conversation because I think your definition is incorrect.
Look,
you think my definition is incorrect. Your definition isn't the common definition.
Like you just, it is the common definition. Like you just told me about the
It's not the public meaning of that word.
Listen.
You walk up to most people in society. That's the common plain meaning definition of that word.
No, you just stretch the meaning out, and then it loses all meaning. Like that's why people are like, oh,
Let's stretch the definition out.
Yeah,
if we do a historical analysis of that word, do you think it's going to lean towards my definition or your definition?
My definition, because like racism is structural and institutional. That's how it operates. Segregation is structural racism. Like that's how it works. Redlining, structural. Like, come on.
Do you think that we add words in front of it, like structural racism, as opposed to just like plain old individualized? To describe
specific situations within racism, within the broader umbrella of racism.
Yeah. So we'll just do the historical analysis. I guess you can do like the philosophy of language stuff where we just do descriptive analysis of like the plain meaning understanding of the word over time, and then we can just like talk about whether or not this is mainly used in academic departments. And it's mainly used in certain academic departments. Your definition. My definition is the plain meaning, common understood meaning of the word. I don't know what to do. We can't have a conversation with each other.
No, we can't.
That's why you can't have a conversation with Alex either, because he and most people don't fucking believe this.
Okay, well, sure, that's fine. You cannot believe anything you want. Doesn't mean it's true. I think you have the impression that I'm saying like, oh, okay, so racism for white people is not a thing, so therefore white people must be living happy lives in happy sunshine land.
Nope,
I never said that was the case. I never said that was the case. Like, if I'm mean to a little white girl and I'm like, oh, you're the devil because you were born, like, then that's still an awful thing to do. I'm still an asshole. But she does not, like, her hurdles in life are not going to be based off of her race. That's all that means.
Okay.
If I'm mean to somebody, I'm mean to them. But she's not going to be potentially turned down for job applications because her name is something like Shantae, or she's not going to have to style her hair in specific ways that are presentable to represent professionalism.
I live this life, so you don't need to explain it to me.
You understand? Then why are you saying like I'm crazy, like I'm talking backwards in Spanish or something like that?
Because your use of the word is not most people's commonly understood meaning of the word, and you're not doing me any service by using this word this way. Most people will not know what the fuck you're talking about because this is not the plain meaning use of the word. And simultaneously, nobody said that everybody was living a terrible, no good, very bad life in South Africa if you're white. You just need to say, hey, you know what? People are kind of racist to white people down there sometimes.
It's not racism.
It's like a common thing that exists in the society. And we can't have the conversation because you're just going to say it's not racism.
I'm trying to tell you what it is.
So then it's bigotry. So let's just say it's bigotry. You agree that the bigotry is horrendous, right?
Yes, and then if that issue needs to be solved on that level, if there's a bigotry that's based off like historical precedent, like, oh, these people came here and and we have these certain cultural beliefs about these people, then that needs to be addressed for that. But just calling it racism just muddies the term.
For like educational policy.
I'm just trying to figure out like why does it need to be racism for it to not be bad? Like, why does it need to be racism?
because there was a turn in society, apparently, where people wanted to do the only thing that makes it racism is that it's institutionalized and that it's systemic and that there's like a prejudice that's backed by a series of institutions and power structures that did not exist in most of human history and in society in the understanding of that word.
Until it did.
And people are shifting it over, and nobody agrees. Well, not nobody. I'm being hyperbolic there, and I apologize for that. But most people, when they hear that word, they hear the common understanding of that word, and it's not what you're describing at all. And I would agree that word, just like throwing it in all cases and not just saying good things like systemic racism, which is a more accurate description of what's happening here, is doing a disservice to me, actually.
How is it doing a service to you?
And I have to fucking explain 70, 80 paragraphs worth of critical theory or like a bunch of other stuff that might be valuable, might not be valuable for the purposes of getting a white person to fucking listen to me because nobody uses this word this way.
That's an interesting term you just brought up, critical theory, like critical race theory almost, you know? Like it's almost like systems of power are structurally, induced to present certain legalistic sort of results that favor one person and disfavor another. You know what
Yeah,
I'm talking
I'm
about?
not. Okay, I know what critical theory is. Okay, I've read. I read critical theory.
I'm not saying you're
I understand
stupid.
critical
I
theory,
mean, you
and
clearly
you
are well
don't need
read.
to explain. You don't need to fucking explain critical theory to me. Again, all I'm saying here is that even if even if this is the case, right? Even if this is the case, most people understand the word this way, and it is a good use of the word. And you shifting it around for the purposes of your own personal alignments is not useful.
Again, I don't. This is like a broadly unuseful muddying of the term because it presents the situation in which, like, oh,
Broadly
anytime
using it.
anyone's,
Who's broadly using it?
you're broadly using the term because you're loosening the definition to include, like, oh, well, if black people, if like a poor black kid's mean to a rich white guy, then that's racism too. Like, like how is that?
Yes, actually.
No, it's not. It is not. There's no
You just say
structural
it's not. You can say
power.
it's
So
not.
wait,
But
wait.
when I do linguistic analysis, I don't just use my own personal definition and then like a definition of a subgroup in society. I look at the historical analysis of the usage of the word.
Sure,
That's how
but
I do it. I
the
do
word
descriptive
still has a
analysis.
meaning. Words still have objective meanings.
Yeah. Wait. The word has an objective meaning based off
Correct.
of historical analysis.
Correct.
Even in contemporary usage, most people would consider racism the old, like what would we consider the older definition, and that the newer like definition to include that it must be systemic
Yo, what
is
is that?
mostly still
It sounds like
academic.
fucking wind.
Yeah, it sounds like
Get this
Anti,
shit
your mic is
together, bro.
mute,
goddamn
bud.
boy.
Or I'm
Anti.
gonna fucking turn you down.
Or some. I think he's trying to go inside or some shit.
Holy shit, brother, you flying through the air?
Fucking Anti couldn't afford the ticket to Guam. He's one.
Is he flapping his arms? What's going on?
Fucking duct tape himself to the bottom of the plane.
Sounded like someone was being waterboarded.
That was wild.
Fucking.
That was wild.
Maybe Simon got off and over found Anti and fucking strangled him. That's what we're hearing.
Maybe.
It's funny because the conversation you guys are having right now about the term racism is exactly the argument that Alex and Simon were having earlier, but they just couldn't get past their argumentative styles. Like they just couldn't get past it.
Yeah.
But that's
Well, it
essentially
sucks.
what the debate was. It's like
Yeah.
he's saying, "Hey, it's racist what's going on in South Africa," and she's like, "Hey, it's not racism. Like you're not looking at it the right way." And it's the same conversation you guys are having, except you guys are actually honing in on the term racism.
It sucks when you have to try to fight two battles. Like you're trying to fight, like you're trying to not be combative in the argument, and then you're also trying to make a point in the argument too. So
It is tough. It is tough, but I mean, that's why we got to be in good faith, man. That's the whole point of good faith, so that we're not all fucking stressed out.
Got to keep a good faith. He was saying something, and then he decided to like take a dip into the wind or whatever. But oh well.
Oh, Auntie will be back. Auntie will be back. You know.
After these messages.